Hi, welcome to Homeschool Together. Today I wanted to talk with you about Torchlight Level K, Worldly Wisdom. It's a multi-subject curriculum and the creator says it's for ages 5 to 7. It's going to cover geography, literature, art, science, poetry, and character building. So this includes a weekly schedule and a checklist, plus a student activity book and some ideas for extensions if you have older learners or you want to add more enrichment through different sources of media, extra books, videos, etc. So this is a 36-week curriculum. At the time of this recording, it's $32 for the digital PDF. Now this curriculum does get our recommendation, but I think that it skews slightly older than what the creator has written. So I would say 6 plus, maybe more like 7 would be a little bit better for this curriculum, but it is really solid. It does have a great book list. Just some of the books are a bit too lengthy for that 5-year-old age. So if you want to use this with a younger learner, with a 5-year-old, you might want to sub a couple of the literature selections. So let's dive in and take a look inside. Okay, so let's take a look first at the parent teaching book. Just put this in a binder here. One of the first things that I love about Torchlight is it gives you this weekly book list. Now, it has a list in the main curriculum for all of the books, but I like that this has the title, the author, whether it's owned or at the library, and it tells you by weeks. So you can just check, check, check. It makes the library holds really easy. This also does include the spines that you're going to need for that week. So if you are not going to purchase the spines and you want to get them from the library, you know exactly when you'll be using them. So I really appreciate the book list that's included, and this is one of the downloads that you will get with the curriculum. So here we have our table of contents, and you can see these links are all blue. So when you have this as a digital PDF, you can quickly click on them and go right to the week that you are interested in going through. So this is your welcome letter. Now this talks about learners age 5 to 7. They're saying it's flexible enough to go down to ages 4 up to age 8. I think you could definitely go down up to age 8. Age 4 is really pushing it. There's just some components in here, and I'll show a couple of the books just to give an example of what I mean that I think are just too much for this age. And I know that that's been a common theme that people have said. Now, just because this skews a little bit older doesn't mean I don't think that this is something that you should absolutely check out if you're interested in it. Just know that going in that some of these lit selections are a bit much for that age. So it gives you a welcome, talking about how to use the curriculum. Part of this is going to be this Global Connections project, and we'll go through it in the activity book so you can see what that looks like. But this is just one of the activities that you're going to be, going back to week after week with your learner to help make the connection between the different countries. Now, one of the things I think is important to mention with this curriculum is that this doesn't go continent by continent. This does hop around from, it'll go one week it'll be South American country, and the next week it'll be somewhere in Northern Europe, and the next week somewhere in Africa. It really hops around, as opposed to Build Your Library, which goes continent by continent. I think that this is really a preference. It's funny, our older daughter really loved the continent by continent. We would go and like Build Your Library, do a whole continent and just really cover that really well. Our younger daughter loves hopping around. She would just get bored going through like all of South America, let's say, before we move on. She loves hopping continent to continent. So this is really a function maybe of, your learner's style and what you think they would like best. So this is about how to use it. There's a little bit about the Socratic method in here, which is really just a method of query and discussion. And it's the way that this whole curriculum is set up, and it walks you through the types of questions to ask. There's extension materials, and there's going to be music extensions provided. It talks a little bit about the science and art options here. Okay, so you'll have, this is your full materials list for the whole year, which is lovely. I love getting the full list. It also does make a suggestion to use Right Start if you're going to do math, because math isn't included in this kindergarten curriculum. We love Right Start Math, so I think that's a really good recommendation, although there are several great curriculums, and you can find reviews here on this, on our channel. So here's the overall book list. And this tells you if something is a spine. I love that it has this little symbol saying that this is a quality audiobook. For example, A Bear Called Paddington is actually read by Hugh Bonneville, who plays the father in the Paddington movie. So like that's a really great quality audiobook. And I love that she points that out so you know, hey, this would be a really good one. Some weeks, for example, Juana and Lucas is almost a graphic novel, so I think it's interesting they call it out as a great audiobook. I'm sure it is, but it's missing all the pictures of what is mostly a graphic novel. So be a little bit cautious about this. You know, things like Paddington and Anna Hibiscus and Missy Piggle Wiggle, those books don't have a lot of pictures, but like this one does. So just know if you're going to choose an audiobook, make sure that it's not one that has a lot of visuals. She adds which ones have an activity or music involved. So I like the key. It's really nice to have that. And this is all given on their website as well, all the different books and things. There are some classical CDs that are called out here. And this is the cooking section here. And they offer, for science, there's a little bit that you'll do because you're going to read the Zoe and Sas series and use these other couple of science books. But then they also have a code to be able to get Be Naturally Curious on sale. So they recommend that you use Be Naturally Curious as part of this. And as you can see here, there's the rest of the book list, and this is all given on their website. You've got your cooking and character building books, which is really talking about, you know, stories with morals and different things. Aesop's Fables is included in here, and one of the main spines, Molly and Keela. And then there's a bit of social studies and the science books. There's also a code for Be Naturally Curious, which I've blacked out here because this is part of purchasing Torchlight. So they recommend Be Naturally Curious as something to accentuate this curriculum, but that's a separate purchase. And then there's art and music and some poetry. It gives us some alternate ideas, some supplemental, some extra apps and shows and things that you can look at. There's some questions. This is all about how to use the Socratic method and get to the comprehension. Oh, I wonder how that happened. Do you think that was a good choice? You know, that kind of stuff. So this is all asking thoughtful questions and then having a discussion with your learner. So they have both fiction and nonfiction questions for you to use. Now there's these geography inquiry lessons. So this is all about how to get your learner to place where they are that week near where they have been and relative to their home. So, you know, the first week, for example, is where is this compared to our home? Is it higher or lower on the globe? So each week you're going to be starting with the globe, looking at where your home is, what country you're studying, maybe what country you came from. And as you go on, there's going to be more questions through this geography inquiry section. So this is all globe work, which I think is really neat. And then this is week 1. So this is European Russia. This is an optional weekly schedule that they give you. And this is all the pages and things that you're going to have to read. So this isn't the exact order that you have to do it, but you can kind of look at this, and you can even have a math line here so you can fill in your own math if you'd like to. I love this section. It just says what you as the learning partner, and I love that they call it learning partner, what do you as the parent have to print out and get ready for this week? So that's awesome. I love using that. This is what we would do on a Sunday night. We would know exactly what we had to do. And then what activity supplies do we have to get together? So I love the prep. And then this is the section that my husband actually liked to use the most when we were doing this curriculum, is the checklist, because you can do things in whatever order you want. And as you see, there's a lot more information given here than is actually on the suggested or the optional weekly schedule. It doesn't just say like, listen to this music. It gives you questions to ask along the way, and it gives you extra links to click for YouTube videos that are going to go with whatever, you know, in this case, this is listen to Tchaikovsky, and it's going to give you a few opera clips that you can watch from that. So that would be really cool to kind of connect it together. And then these are all the different books that you're going to read. Again, there's some links to shows, and then in the science portion, your animal atlas. And so there is an animal, kind of an animal science component, but there's also this big science for little people part of it. So there's a couple of science parts, your building character piece, and then things to do with reading and writing, and this is making a map of your room. Then you have the extensions here. This is things that you can add, and some of these are good for like older learners, so you can look and say like, oh, okay, I have a tag-along 10-year-old. Here's what I might want to do with them. And then this I really love. This is extra books, and they have a section here for older learners, and then they have videos and movies, apps and music. So I really like that they give you so many enrichment extensions here. I do want to talk a little bit before I go on to the activity book about some of the cohesiveness of this. If there's one criticism that I really have about this curriculum, it's that I don't feel like everything is very cohesive. So for example, we're going to read Anya's Secret Society. This is European Russia. So of course that book is applicable to Russia, but then Mercy Watson to the Rescue has nothing to do with Russia. You're going to be, so Tchaikovsky in this case does, but there's a lot of weeks where the music or art doesn't directly apply to the country. It happens to in this one because that's one of the 4 Classical Kids CDs, but otherwise, a lot of times they don't connect. You have, this is really great where it connects the Smithsonian Children's Illustrated Atlas is awesome. And then the Year Full of Stories is going to be about the country. The 101 Awesome Women Who Changed the World, those are always from the country. So all the geography, culture, social studies stuff is always really great and applicable. So that part's nice and cohesive. The science part, the animal atlases, and then you have this book, Big Science for Little People, which is just a general science book that has science experiments and it's not linked to any other part of it. And then this character building piece, which also isn't linked. So I guess there's pieces that are tied into European Russia, but then there's others where it's like we need to do a science. Okay, we're going to use this other book. Well, I think that other book is good. I just think it's important for you to understand that they don't all tie in with the country that we're studying. Or, in this case, I would think that the science should tie in with animals in some way, but it doesn't. It's how to stick a spoon on your nose and why that works that way. So just know that going in, that there are pieces here that feel a little bit like they're bolted on and not as cohesive of a picture. Just know that about this curriculum. So this is a sample week, and now I want to take you through the student activity book next so you can see what that looks like. So this is the student book, and this is part of the Global Connections project. So here's the idea, which is that you're going to make these pages, you're eventually going to make a big map that you'll put on the wall, and you'll take these different weeks and you can paste them right on there just as it's shown here, and draw your arrows and show where you were. So this is European Russia, which we just talked about was the first week. So you'll find all the weeks will have their own maps here. And then I wanted to get to this piece, which is really neat. This is Torchlight Trek. So there's a couple of different things that you can do as part of Torchlight Trek. So the first thing is, it's basically like your student is a travel writer. So this is the biography of your author, of your student. And then there's these different badges. So it's either you're going to be writing articles. Let me show you what the article looks like so you get an idea. So this is what the article looks like. So you're going to take one of these badges and you paste it here, draw a little picture, a title, and your student's name, and then they're going to write a bit of an article about one of these areas. So in the country you're studying, they might write about the arts or impactful people, festivals, they might review a food that you ate, special places or landmarks, something about animals, writer's choice, meaning they can write whatever. And then the badges repeat themselves, and there's a whole another page here of badges. So this is another one of those areas where I think we're seeing that saying that the curriculum is ages 5 and up is a little bit challenging. Now you can definitely scribe for your learner, and we did a little bit of this with our daughter, but it was still a bit much to come up with kind of what you wanted to write. So take this with a grain, depending on your learner and how comfortable they are, even verbally giving you their ideas that you can write down. You can definitely scribe for them, but just know that we ended up abandoning this when we did this curriculum because it just seemed to be a little bit much for our daughter. But they have plenty of pages in here for you to do. And then, after we get on here, this is the animal spotlight section. So if you're going to do an animal, then this has a bunch of things that they can circle about. Is it a vertebrate or invertebrate? Does it have fur, feathers, all the attributes of the animal, where they found it, draw a picture of what it looks like. So these are all the different continents that you can go through, and you can do this animal spotlight. 2 interesting facts about the animal. So you can definitely scribe for your learner. I'm not trying to say that you can't do this with a very young learner, but we found this a little bit challenging, when our daughter was young. So that being said, let me show you a couple of the books so you can get an idea of the type of books that are used in Torchlight. First up, let's take a look at Howl Like a Wolf. This is one of the animal books. It's one of the spines. This is really fun. It's all about learning about animals and learning how to act like an animal, like slide like a penguin, for example. You learn all about penguins, and then you have to, at the end, you have to act like a penguin. Our daughter really loved these activities because it just made it all real. I remember there being one where they were snakes. Oh yeah, this is rattle like a snake. And you end up taking a sock and putting a little plastic egg with rice in it, and you tie it on the back of your body, and then they rattled across the floor. So that was a really fun one. This is a really great book if you have a learner that definitely wants to move their body. This would be awesome for that. Also, this is great if you have younger learners that are tagging along, because this is just good fun. So this Howl Like a Wolf, not used every week because there's only 15 animals, but this is a very fun book. We really enjoyed that one. Next up, I wanted to take a look at, this is the Aesop's Fables. We talked about the character building component of this. I appreciate the character building. The main book that they use is Molly and Keela, which definitely it has a lot of division. Some people absolutely love it. Our family found it just super predictable and boring, and we didn't like it. So, it can go either way. You might want to check it out from the library and see if it's your jam before purchasing it. Some people absolutely love it. These McElderry books, this is Aesop's Fables, these are really great. They're perfect for this kindergarten age. Got good engaging pictures. The stories aren't too long. Telling the classic fables and, learning the lessons from them. So, obviously great artwork, and I think these are really terrific to pick up. The next one is another spine. This is a year full of stories. This is all your folk tales and legends from around the world. I think this is also one that's a little bit divisive in that some people love it and some people hate it. It depends how much your family really likes folk tales. Our family is not a huge folk tale family, mostly because the story structure tends to, characters tend to have motivations that our very logical daughter says just don't make sense, and so she just doesn't get into it. Other families love folk tales. If you do, this has some great artwork, and there are stories here from all the different countries. And it does go by days. You can actually just, follow it along through the year if you want to, but of course this is going to hop around to whatever country you're studying. So lots of great countries covered, and it's a really good book if your family likes folk tales. If you're not sure, you might check this one or A Year Full of Animal Stories out from the library just to see the style of the stories. Read a couple to your learners and see if this is something that will connect with them before you pick it up. But otherwise, there's a lot of people that love these books, so I think you're either in for folk tales or, maybe it's not so much your jam. So check that out. This is the main poetry spine, Song of the Wild. So it's a book about animals, and it's got some just gorgeous pictures, and then simple poems about animals. So if you are a poetry-loving family, I think this is a great book. It's got just such beautiful artwork in it. If you love poetry and your kids are into animals, then you'll probably really love this book. So those are a few of the spines. And then I wanted to introduce you to a couple of the reading materials. Actually, there's one more spine I want to show you here first. This is Big Science for Little People. So this is 52 different little experiments that you can do. The pop bottle lava lamp, for example. And so these are all just little experiments, and they're pretty easy to do. Our daughter liked these experiments. She thought that they were interesting. They didn't really build on one another. They were all just kind of individual experiments that say, hey, we're going to do this experiment. And then you say, what's going on with it? And you can take it further by continuing the experiment on. But really, this is a very short, which is great for kinder, but we didn't feel, I guess we were just wanting it to build, like take the beginning level concepts and build further and then show through experiments how that works. But these are just a bunch of random different experiments. They don't really build on one another. So just know that going in, if you want to hop around and do a bunch of cool experiments and just play with science, I think this is a great book for that. But just know that that's kind of the way that this is structured. Part of the science is to read Zoe and Sas, this series. Our girls love this series. It's basically about a little girl who can help mythical animals. She can see mythical creatures or magical creatures, I guess. And she uses science and hypothesis and then scientific method to help these creatures with whatever their problem is. They're great books. I've done a whole review series on all of these books, so I'll link that in the show notes if you want to see more about Zoe and Sas. I have a whole video on those. So these are really quality, and our girls really loved them. The next series is this Greetings from Somewhere. There's 10 books in this series. It's about a homeschool brother and sister, and they travel around the world. They solve mysteries. Really appropriate for this kinder, first grade type time frame, age range, and our girls have always really enjoyed these. So I think they're perfectly fine. As an adult, I'm not super jazzed about reading them, but they're definitely a step up from like a Magic Treehouse. You know, I think they're pretty predictable, but our girls really love them. So I also have a whole video on this series. Overall, I think that they're great. Pick them up from the library for these. So I'll link that video series too, and you can take a look at that. And then we talked a bit about Mercy Watson. You're going to read through all 6 books in this curriculum. These, of course, are not like country related. They're just extremely cute. They're great for kinder. They're funny. Our girls always love them. So great books. I think you can just really, you know, if it were me, I would just read these at any time. I don't think you have to correspond them to the weeks necessarily. They're really fun, so definitely good ones to pick up because our kids have loved them. And then there's some really cool things. You know, Torchlight's always known for having kind of newer books, and I think some of these are really great. Meet Yasmin is a great example of this, where it's, you know, almost like a graphic, not quite a graphic novel, but has a lot of pictures. This is about a Pakistani American girl and her experiences, and it's awesome. It's written great for this age range, tells a lot of good lessons, and our kids really enjoyed it. So Meet Yasmin is a great series, and so there's more books like this in Torchlight, which I think are awesome. And you can see just with the writing style and things how appropriate that is for this age. I think it's great. And then we get into some other options. As you can see, this is Tum Tum and Nutmeg, Adventures Beyond Nutmouse Hall. And it is this long. So this is where we struggled to read through this book, and we just couldn't get through it. As much as we loved it, we thought it was great. The book itself is awesome. One of the things about this that you can do, if you do end up doing the curriculum and you do want to read this, it's actually broken into 3 different stories, so you could just read one story and call it a day. But yeah, this is a long one, and it was a little bit much for our daughter to even understand. So I think that's where I'm feeling like the 5-year-old age is just a little bit early for this in general. Some of the books are great. Some of them I think would be better for your 6 and 7-year-olds. So that was a look at Torchlight Level K. Overall, I think the pros of this curriculum are it's low cost. It has really high quality books for the most part. There's lots of media added, which I love. There's great ways to watch YouTube videos, add extra music and art, extra books. I love that it gives you those options. And there's ideas as well to bring along older learners, which I think is terrific. So the drawbacks for me is that some of the books are too lengthy, as we discussed. Some of them don't always connect to the countries, and there's a lack of subject cohesion between the different things. Sometimes you feel like they're different pieces. But that being said, because of the cost of the curriculum, I think it's really easy to just take what you love and toss what doesn't work for you. If you want everything to be cohesive, you could replace pieces. For 30 bucks, I think it's a steal. It's a great curriculum. I think you could be perfectly happy with this curriculum for your kindergartner and maybe take out a few of the things that might be beyond their level. I still think that this definitely gets our recommendation. We did it with our own daughter and she loved it, and we're doing another round the world journey this year, and we're going to be pulling in some of the books from this because we did really enjoy some pieces of this curriculum. So I think it's a great option. If you're trying to weigh this and Build Your Library Zero, I think look at the samples of both, check out a few of the books from the library from both, and see which one speaks to you more, or buy them both and do some sort of a combo. Whatever works best for your family. I think they're both affordable enough that you could do either way. This one has some newer books, and if the types of books really appeal to you, go this way. If the types of books from Build Your Library appeal to you, go that way. Again, with the hopping around between the different countries, if you think that that's going to be more exciting for your learners, then this is a great choice. If you think your learners are going to want to cover a continent completely before moving on, then Build Your Library might be a better choice. So you're really going to have to weigh. It's really personal preference. They're both kindergarten level curriculums for the most part. They both cover geography. And I hope that this review and the review of Build Your Library Zero, which I'll put down in the show notes in case you haven't seen that one, I hope that between the two of these you can get a sense of what might be the right thing for you and your family. So we hope this review was helpful for you and your family on your homeschool journey.